There are reports that Dricus Du Plessis is injured and out of his fight against Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 317 on International Fight Week. This is per Kevin Iole. Khamzat Chimaev seems to have confirmed this news as well by saying, of course, this, which is on the screen right now. This guy biggest bullshit, brother. And Caio Borralho is looking to step in and save the day against Khamzat Chimaev. Maybe there'll be some kind of interim championship on the line. I'm going to go through a few things in today's video. And then also at the end of this, I'm going to try and discuss what can be done to save International Fight Week. There's just no good news. There's no good news for MMA fans recently. There's none. All we are getting for good news is saving events that are otherwise doomed. Which is going to be an announcement soon, no less. Like, there's going to be an announcement this week, most likely for what is going to be the new main event now of UFC 317. But I'm sick of only having good news when it's to salvage a fucking disaster. That's all we've got recently as MMA fans. Dricus Du Plessis is injured. It happens. I'm sad about it. I'm annoyed. Everyone's going to be annoyed about this, but this is the biggest fight of his career. If he has picked up an injury, he's not going to want to fight Khamzat Chimaev whilst injured. A lot of people are saying, he did this with Adesanya as well. Little bit of a different circumstance. He was training for Khamzat Chimaev. He's had time to train. He picked up an injury in the middle of training. When he pulled out of there was no pull out of the fight with Israel Adesanya. When he didn't take the fight with Israel Adesanya, 8 weeks after he fought Robert Whittaker with a foot injury. That was because he had an injury going into the Whittaker fight that got worse in the Whittaker fight. And therefore he didn't want to take a title fight, the biggest fight of his career, 8 weeks after the Whittaker fight, which is absolutely insane to demand of him in the first place. But there's a reason why Adesanya did it. And it ended up backfiring when they eventually did fight each other later down the line. It sucks, man. We don't get any good news. And Khamzat Chimaev is confirming this. I don't think Kevin Iole's a liar. I think he's pretty, respected as a journalist in general. I don't think he's the kind of guy to just come out with something like this. We haven't heard anything from like an Ariel Helwani or a ESPN MMA. I haven't really posted about this yet, but there's some strong rumors and strong reports. And then I didn't think it was going to be true. 9 hours ago this was posted. And I was thinking, well, I'll wait until something like a bit more confirming happens here before I just go off of a report that's randomly come out about Dricus Du Plessis being injured. And then I see Khamzat Chimaev say this. This guy biggest bullshit. Pulling out of the fight. Now, it should be said that Chimaev was looking in a mirror when he made this tweet, because I know what everyone was thinking when they saw Chimaev post this. This is rich coming from you, buddy. Okay? This is real rich coming from Khamzat Chimaev. Heaven forbid an opponent pulls out against him. Okay? Little bit of a taste of his own medicine. Imagine how all of his opponents have felt when he was pulling out of their fights. Honestly, a lot of them might have had a bit of a sigh of relief in hindsight because Chimaev's a monster. But still, you've pulled out with illness before. This is an injury. You know what I mean? Very different things. But Khamzat Chimaev's very, very understandably upset about it, even though he's done it before. This is obviously very sad for him. He should have been fighting for the title. I don't know what to do to save the day here. I really don't. Now, Borralho has also heard this news. Now, there was a clip going around of Caio Borralho talking to Daniel Cormier backstage at the last, I think it was UFC 314. And he was talking to Daniel Cormier and he was saying, mouthing to Daniel Cormier, I've got a fight on International Fight Week against Imavov. And he was very clearly saying that to Daniel Cormier. And that was considered like Caio Borralho leaking the fact that he's fighting Imavov on the International Fight Week. Because, of course, what else would it be considered as? He literally said it to DC. So he's been ready for this event. And the UFC were ready to give him an opportunity at this event against Imavov in the number one contenders matchup. I imagine because it would be good to have a backup opponent in case anything like this were to happen. Maybe the UFC knew about Dricus Du Plessis' injury, which is why they started going ahead with the idea of a Borralho Imavov on the undercard. But maybe they were just sort of unsure whether or not Dricus would pull out or not. Turns out he has. And Borralho's responded. I know a guy, UFC, you know who to call. Borralho's been calling out a bunch of fighters recently on social media. He's calling out Amavov for not wanting to fight him. Eventually that now got signed. So I guess that wasn't true. He just maybe didn't agree to the same date as Borralho agreed to. He also called out Whitaker. I think he was calling out another name that didn't want to fight him either. And eventually he ended up just being like, okay, give me Anthony Hernandez. Which is insane to say because Hernandez is a dangerous matchup. But now he's calling out Chimaev. He says interim. I don't mind the idea of an interim world championship. We've got this. Last 4. Don't forget, guys, I'm ready. This is also Borralho saying this. Last 4 Russians on my record. This time it's going to be different. And it's, 3 decisions against Abbas Magomedov, Makhmud Muradov, Armen Petrosian. Is he Russian? I thought he was Armenian, but either way. Omar Gadziev as well. I don't even think Makhmud Muradov is Russian either. I'm pretty sure he's like Kazakhstani or something. But fair enough. I mean, he did put Russians in quotation marks. To be fair, he did put Russian in quotation marks, which is interesting. So he beat all these guys, and he's saying, nah, I'm ready and new. Now he's saying Khamzat said yes. The only thing that makes sense is the interim belt. This fight is going to be bigger than him versus Dricus. Mark my words. Now, someone that is being ignored here. We can't just pretend like Nasruddin Imavov didn't just sleep Israel Adesanya by KO. I don't know what Nasruddin Imavov's been saying, but these are the posts that I've been seeing recirculated about Borralho calling for the fight. Borralho's pushing for the fight on social media. And Borralho has been upping his social media game. And apparently Khamzat said yes to the fight with Borralho. I don't know if he's calling some kind of bluff, if he's trying to sort of rally a movement behind this matchup. Because Imavov is the most deserving. He just is. And if he was in the works to fight Borralho on this same card, the UFC should go to Imavov first. Fighting Nerds hype-wise, which is sad that we may have to go to this now, but Fighting Nerds hype-wise, I mean, Borralho might be the move. A Fighting Nerd going up against Khamzat Chimaev in the main event of International Fight Week. And by the way, when I get to discussing what could really save the card, I reckon the only thing that could save it is by Chimaev staying on the card in the main event for some kind of interim title. As weird as it is to put the interim title on the line, but Dricus got injured. Do we know the severity of the injury? Is Dricus saying that he just can't fight on International Fight Week, but he would be willing in August? Maybe then Khamzat Chimaev would be saying, oh no, I'm just going to wait and fight Dricus in July or August, who knows? But if it's some kind of serious injury, an interim belt does make sense just to have a nice title on the line. And it would only make the Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus Du Plessis fight in the future that much more important, that much bigger. You know what I mean? So I feel like all I'm covering is bad news. All I'm covering is slandering the UFC and saying what they're doing is wrong and why are they doing this and why has this happened and oh, disaster struck again. We're not getting anything good. You know what I mean? Maybe the events in terms of the results, we're getting good stuff. Volk won, Pimblett won, you know. But then Bryce lost. I'm joking now. But we're not getting any good news, man. All these guys calling for title shots. We got lightweights. I just posted something about this on Twitter the other day. Oliveira's just there talking about how he wants a title shot. Tapuria saying the same thing. Armen Sarukian saying the same thing. Gaethje saying the same thing. And it's like there's 4 lightweight contenders here that all want a title shot, that all could have fought by now or had something booked to make sure there's no negotiation on who's going to get a title shot. There used to be a way of doing this. Oliveira, Gaethje, Armen Sarukian, and Ilya Tapuria. There's 4 of you. 2 of you fight each other, and the winner's going to get Makhachev. What happened to that way of doing things? It feels like the sport is just... We're getting Aspinall saying that there's some news coming soon about him versus Jones. And it's Bilal's champ. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing but absolute sadness right now in the sport. It's not good, man. It's not good at the moment. Oh, I can't wait for Pantoja Cara France. It's a big fight, but there's just... What else are they going to put on this card? A Zhang Weili Werner Jandiroba matchup? Is that what we're going to get? Zhang Weili Werner Jandiroba? No, don't worry. Now that we haven't got Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev and Tapuria Oliveira, which I'm just giving up that these lightweight contenders are actually going to fight each other now. So they're probably just going to sit on their ass until one of them gets chosen, I guess. Or just wait until hopefully they think JDM's going to beat Bilal Muhammad and then Makhachev moves up and now they'll fight for some interim belt instead of just fighting for contender status. There's more on the line for them. Maybe that's what it is, but I just don't like where the sport's headed, man. And it's not even like, I'm not going at Drake, like, you get injured. Injuries happened. He's never really pulled out of a fight, to my knowledge, as of recently. Other than the Adesanya thing, which was him being, like, forced into an 8-week turnaround after fighting Whittaker with an injury. That's just unrealistic to expect of someone. And just unfair. Like, they tried to put him at a disadvantage against Adesanya. And then when they got it on both of their terms, where Adesanya had lost his belt for the second time without defending it, because he didn't defend it the second time he got the belt back, and then immediately got his immediate rematch again, there Dricus beat his ass and submitted him. But it's just, man, I guess we'll do Chimaev versus Borralho. I would rather Chimaev versus Imavov, but I'll tell you this, if Imavov's not going to state his case and try and express some kind of desire for this fight right now, then you got to give it to Borralho, right? Just based off what Gene Silver's been doing. And it's sad that Borralho's done a lot of work himself, but he is getting a lot of star power just from the fact that Prates, Gene Silver, and Mauricio Huffy are scoring highlight reel finishes back to back to back. But Borralho's kind of like the team leader, right? He kind of started the movement, so he's getting a bit of trickle-down hype from the rest of their crazy finishes. But Borralho, I guess. Borralho's up next. Khamzat Chimaev, this guy, biggest bullshit. You know, he's training for a fight. You know? Flight, you know, shush. Like, he's training. He was ready for a fight. He was posting this, which got crazy interaction. Him and Dricus Du Plessis, you know, preparing. And Dricus actually reposted this on a story or something from something I saw on Twitter. I don't know if it's true, but there's nothing on Dricus' story right now. So he probably was, like, good to go and all on board. And then something obviously very recently has happened to where he's now like, fuck, man. And you know what's tough? I get why people get injured when they're preparing for Khamzat Chimaev, because you're probably going through the ringer when it comes to takedown defense. You know? You're probably just having guys just shoot on you, shoot takedowns and drag you down and force you into scrambles, and there's going to be some kind of tweak or injury or something along those lines. Maybe it's not that, maybe it's a broken hand or a broken foot, but it's just sad, man. Khamzat Chimaev, this guy, biggest bullshit. This was posted just after the news came out that Dricus was reportedly injured. You know? It's all good, Chimaev. It's all good. You know? But, you know, Whittaker waited till you were ready. At least Whittaker waited until you were ready. You know what I mean? When you pulled out of the first fight with him with illness. Let's not forget the Leon Edwards conundrum that you had. Okay? 3 in a row, Khamzat Chimaev. That's also very interesting. So listen, I don't feel terrible for Khamzat Chimaev for someone pulling out of a fight with him. I don't. Because it's like, dude, you did this to so many people on the come up. We've had this with you. You missed weight and we're trying to fight Nate Diaz. Like, you missing weight to fight Nate Diaz? So it's not like he's been the sort of bastion of showing up every time without fail. So it's hard to feel bad for Chimaev, but they are going to have to find some kind of a replacement. Fuck, man. No movement on, look at this, MMA Orbit. No movement on Jones versus Aspinall. Dricus Du Plessis injured. Islam Makhachev's team not wanting to fight Ilia Topuria. Let me just tell you this. This is the crazy part of this. Of these 3 things that are wrong with the UFC right now, listen to what I'm saying. Dricus Du Plessis injured. He's injured and he can't fight on International Fight Week. That's the report that we're getting. No movement on Jones Aspinall. We've got a heavyweight champion who just won't fight his top contender. Makhachev's team not wanting to fight Ilia Topuria. Dricus Du Plessis injured. Listen to that excuse for why we're not getting Du Plessis versus Chimaev. He's injured. And then look at the other 2. You know, Jones just doesn't want to fight him yet as a heavyweight champ against his interim champ. And, you know, Makhachev's team not wanting to fight Ilia Topuria. The fact that this is something that is being said as reasons for why we haven't got a massive International Fight Week card is so annoying to me. Not wanting, you don't want to. We need to bring back punishments for this type of behavior. I remember a time not long ago, by the way, speaking of this stint that he had against Leon Edwards where he pulled out of 3 fights in a row. Maybe Edwards pulled out one of them. I'm not sure. But I know it was mainly Chimaev messing up the fight actually happening. In hindsight, he would have probably mauled Leon Edwards. Let's be honest. I'm not saying he was ducking him. But still, I remember a time where Leon Edwards said no as a top contender to like number 11 or 12 in the rankings, Khamzat Chimaev. And they removed him from the rankings. You know? I remember a time where a champion was saying no to their contender, like Tyron Woodley. Didn't want to fight a contender, instead wanted this catchweight with Bisping. And there were threats to strip him of a belt. We have given fighters freedom, and they have shown us why it is a disaster for them to have. I don't want to say they don't deserve it, okay? But it feels like the UFC recently has been less harsh on fighters for messing things up. Oh, Arman pulled out on the day of the fight, so now he has to earn back a title shot. That's light punishment. You know what I mean? If someone pulled out the day of the fight, Dana White would be up there on the stage afterwards saying he can find a job elsewhere. That would honestly be the argument. Oh, he wants to dance around with Nina and pull his back a day out from the fight. He can find a job at another promotion. He can go to Bellator if he wants. It feels like since the UFC has sort of like relaxed a bit of pressure on the fighters to give them this what they want type of thing, it's been nothing but a disaster. And that just goes to show you that what a lot of fighters want is what's bad for MMA fans. Absolute fact. Stop this Makhachev's team not wanting to fight Ilia Topuria. Therefore, it just doesn't get made. It's going to have to get to the point where Makhachev's team says to the UFC, sorry, we're not interested in fighting Ilia Topuria. Well, guess what? We're not interested in you being the champion then. Give us a super fight. I understand the argument, and I would want a Topuria Oliveira in the meantime. I think that would be better in hindsight, and in an ideal world, that would be better. But I'm sick of this shit, like, we don't want this. So now we don't get a good international fight week card. It's going to be Chimaev versus Imavov, Zhang Weili versus Werner Jandiroba on the card. What else is there? Flyweight? No. Maybe they'll move a flyweight. They're probably going to put Pantoja Kara France on International Fight Week. So that's 3 title fights, I guess. What other champs are there? Bantamweight is O'Malley Merab, because it's what the fans want, isn't it, Dana? We could have had O'Malley Yan too. That's more compelling of a matchup. That could be on International Fight Week, and you wouldn't even need Zhang Weili or Pantoja. You really wouldn't. Like, sure, you'd have to find some kind of replacement for the June card, but this is International Fight Week. It should be above a June card in UFC 316. Can you imagine if International Fight Week lost Du Plessis Chimaev, but was still Chimaev versus Borralho, or Chimaev versus Imavov, and then O'Malley Yan 2 for 5 rounds in the co-main event? I don't need another title fight. Put them all on June. On the earlier card in June, should I say, at UFC 316. Put all the available title fights on there. I don't need it. But we're just shitting out events. And we're waiting for disasters to happen. And when disasters happen, like Dricus Du Plessis gets injured, we're scrambling. We should never be scrambling. The biggest combat sports promotion on earth should not be scrambling for an International Fight Week main event 3 months out. 2 months out. Over 2 months out. We should not be scrambling with 8 weeks to go. Oh, what's going to be the International Fight Week headliner? It's in 8 weeks. Why are we worried? The biggest combat sport promotion on the world. Fucking pissing me off. But another day of bad news. At least the Prates versus Ian Gary card's pretty stacked. So I'll break that down tomorrow. But there you go. Like and subscribe. See you later. Goodbye.